Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the film Weapons. And in the second half, I'm going to review the movie The Naked Gun. So starting off with Weapons, my initial thoughts coming out of this movie was I'm definitely going to need some time to process this one. There's quite a lot to unpack, which is true because it literally took me all day to just put my general thoughts together. It's really that much of like a think piece where you're just like, I need to just take some time and just put this thing together in my head. And so, I may be a little less organized than I usually am here today because there's just so much to talk about. And yet not much I can really say because this movie is made by Zach Cregger, the man behind Barbarian. And if you're not already aware, the major appeal of Barbarian was that if you went in knowing very little about it, the whole movie was like a total surprise that kept you guessing the whole time. Like for the first 30 minutes of that film, you were thinking, oh, okay, I think I know where this is going. And then it totally throws you for a loop and does something entirely different. So Barbarian was just like a very unexpected film. It took everyone by surprise. And of course, when you're doing that, you kind of have this reputation of like, oh, what's the next thing going to be? Like, what's the big twist going to be? Zach Cregger, I believe, produced, not like directed or wrote the movie Companion from earlier this year, which is still a movie I really enjoyed. And that movie also had like a big kind of twist to it if you didn't know going in. So like his movies are designed, I think, to go in blind. They're designed to have you go in not knowing much and then be very surprised by it and just kind of going with that experience. And I say the same thing for Weapons, go in as blind as you possibly can. And not to hype up this movie too much, but I think all I really need to say about it is that Jordan Peele, the guy behind the Oscar-winning film Get Out, he wanted to get the rights to this movie, Weapons, so bad that when his company actually lost the bid to it, Peele literally fired his own manager. That's how upset he was that he couldn't get his hands on this movie. And I think that kind of speaks volumes about like if someone was willing to like get rid of their manager over a movie, how good does that movie have to be? Seriously, it's like think about that. So I've been anticipating this movie for some time now, and I've been very excited to see it. I've loved the vagueness that the trailers have given. I really had no idea what this movie was about besides the actual given premise of it. And just for the sake of being as vague as possible here, I'll quickly read that premise that's on the poster. I don't really want to give too much else away, so I want to read the official lines that they give. But before I do that, this will be kind of a warning to you. If you've somehow not heard anything about this movie, and if you've not seen the trailer or the poster, then you can stop listening now and come back when you've watched the movie. Look, I'm going to assume that if you're listening to this review, you probably are open to hearing a little bit about it at least. I'm absolutely not going to spoil any major plot points or anything like that. I may discuss some small details I've heard in other reviews, like the structure of the film and how I felt about that, but I won't get into more depth than that. So, with that being said, this is your last chance. The premise of this movie is last night at 2:17 a.m., every child from Mrs. Gandy's class woke up, got out of bed, went downstairs, opened the front door, walked into the dark, and they never came back. And from there, that's where the story of this movie begins, with all these kids just mysteriously gone. They vanished. They all went out at the same time, and we don't know why. And this movie's kind of showing different perspectives of people after this strange event. You get a teacher, a parent, the principal, the police, and more. You get a lot of different people kind of experiencing this and how they viewed it and what they're trying to do about it. And I actually really like this approach. To me, it just feels very different from what a lot of movies like this do, and I think it makes for a very engaging experience where you as an audience member are piecing things together with the characters. It makes for an engaging mystery in that way. I really like that. And I will actually note that one issue I do have with the movie is that I think Cregger makes things a little too predictable. I was kind of able to piece together a good idea of what was going on well before he actually revealed it. And that wasn't the case at all with Barbarian. That movie completely surprised me, and I had no idea where that thing was going. This movie, maybe I kind of went in kind of like with my eyes open, like, okay, what's going on here? Like, what's she doing? Maybe I was a little too much like that, but I felt like it was a little too. I think it was a little too in your face, or maybe just a little. It could have been more subtle. I think with its hints. I think I found that I was able to just kind of figure out what was happening pretty quickly, and obviously you kind of go through the rest of the movie thinking like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will do something else. It was kind of what I imagined it would be, though, and it's a little bit of a shame when you're kind of like, it's a mystery a bit, so you're kind of supposed to not be able to figure it out. Didn't really break my experience, but I was hoping it would be a little harder to guess. But yeah, I think that the different perspectives in this movie at least added another layer to the film, which also showed the ways in which people responded to this situation very differently. How a teacher would respond, how a parent would respond are two very different things. And, they're all very different types of people, too. So you get to see that regard of it and just the different ways humanity kind of comes out in these moments. And I'm still kind of unsure whether or not this movie will age well on rewatch or not. Because on one hand, I feel like there's a lot you could catch the second time around potentially, and maybe you could kind of piece together even a little more about like how this happened. And I'm really trying to be vague with what I say here, but also on the other hand, now that I know what was really going on, it's hard to say if that mystery will hold up as well. It's kind of hard to tell which way that'll go. Obviously, rewatch is the only way to find out. At first, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to revisit the film, but I do think after processing it a bit, I do kind of want to see it again. But yeah, it's just a little hard to tell. And this movie's a bit of a slow burn too. It definitely takes its time. There's a lot of people processing different things. There's a lot of following characters around as they do stuff that may or may not pay off later. You kind of have to just wait and see to find out. As each person's perspective comes to an end, the movie gives a bunch of cliffhangers that then you have to wait to see, to come back later. Definitely tests your patience in that sense. The movie doesn't really hold your hand, and it trusts that you'll stay with it until the end. The movie's really just kind of like binging a TV show, if I had to, describe it, because the way everything goes, it's kind of like, okay, you're following this person, cliffhanger, and you kind of have to just be okay with waiting it out and finding out, what happens after. You don't get the answers right away. So it's a different experience from your typical movie, but I think if it's your kind of thing, you could potentially, have a good time with it. I definitely want to shout out a lot of the performances here as well, though. Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, Alden Ehrenreich, Benedict Wong, Austin Abrams, Carrie Christopher, and Amy Madigan all are terrific in this movie. This is an ensemble cast with no one lead. All these people really bring something to the film. Each of them do. Again, I really don't think there's like an actual lead in this movie. They're all supporting characters in a way, or all leads if you want to call it that. And everyone just did an excellent job. I would say each person has a standout moment in the film where I really remembered them, and everyone just knocked it out of the park. Everyone just did a great job, which is also insane to think about, because kind of a fact about this movie is they cast the film years ago, then the actor strikes happened, and scheduling changes happened with the actors, so I think Austin Abrams is the only one who stuck around from the original cast, but there was a completely different cast, including Pedro Pascal, who's been in everything this whole year. But yeah, it had a very different cast, and I'm just saying, I can't imagine this movie with a different cast than it has right now. I think everyone did such a good job that it's actually hard to imagine someone else in these shoes. So that's just kind of how much I think everyone did a good job, and yeah, they all delivered. Zach Kreger also writes and directs this film very well. It's the kind of movie where in someone else's hands this could have been a complete mess, total disaster, but it's just done so well here that you can't help but admire it. It's just so well shot. It builds suspense really well. The score is haunting. The editing is very good. The tonal balance is very impressive considering how much humor there is, mixed with some very serious sequences too. Like, I actually do have to commend that a lot, because this is a horror movie, kind of. I mean, it's hard to define a genre for this, but I think if I had to put it in something, it would be horror. maybe thriller a little bit too, but there is a lot of comedy here, and a lot of it is from how absurd and insane everything is. So it kind of has to balance that well so you're not laughing at the movie, you're laughing with it, and it finds a good balance at that. You do laugh a lot with the movie. But also it scares you a bit too, so that's cool. And overall, I do really like this movie. I think it's really good. At first, it kind of had me a little unsure. By the end, I was kind of like, I enjoyed the first half a lot, and then I couldn't really tell how I felt about the way everything was wrapping up after that. I wasn't totally sure about some of the perspectives we saw of like, oh, is this really that important? Maybe we could spend some more time with a different character. And, I'd just say some of those perspectives are a little less interesting than others. But as I took the rest of the day to process this movie, marinate on it, I came to the conclusion that I do like it, and I think it's a satisfying conclusion. And even those perspectives that I wasn't crazy about at first did eventually grow on me more as I realized what they brought to the table and how they paid off later. So I'm definitely going to give Weapons a recommendation. It's not going to be for everybody. I'm sure there will be some people who will be turned off by the very weird nature of this film, and that's fine. I totally understand that. But even as I was watching this film, I was kind of surprised how much audiences have responded well to it. I mean, this movie has an A- cinema score, really good for a horror movie. And in general, like, people seem to really enjoy this film, critics and audiences alike. So I think that kind of says, like, most people are enjoying themselves. But I can also say that the people in my theater, personally, definitely didn't care for it. I heard some people walk out right behind me. She was like, that was nuts. That was not what I expected it to be. She's like, I didn't like that at all. So, may or may not be for you. If you dug Barbarian, then absolutely check this out. This will be for you. If you didn't like Barbarian, but you did like the way it was structured, and you kind of thought like, I think in a different movie I would like this kind of thing better, then maybe still check this out. This could be cool for you. If you haven't seen Barbarian, sure, just check this one out. See what it does for you. Obviously, if it sounds like something you're interested in. But yeah, Weapons is a pretty wild ride. I really dug it. It's creepy. It's funny. It's atmospheric. There's some great performances. And a story that'll definitely keep you on your toes. So, I'm going to rate Weapons a B+. Alright, and next up is The Naked Gun. I'm a definite fan of the original Naked Gun movie. It's exactly my type of humor. Very stupid, very dumb, but also hilarious. I think the Naked Gun movies are just, I don't know, just something about spoof comedies, like good spoof comedies, I really enjoy. To me, Airplane is like the top tier spoof comedy. It's so funny. Naked Gun is kind of similar to Airplane, but a little bit different too. And I don't know, I just think both are very funny films. When this movie was first announced, I was actually pretty skeptical about it though. It feels like Hollywood likes to make a sequel to every old movie now. Like, we literally just got a sequel to Freaky Friday of all things, which I will be reviewing probably in my next episode here. But what made me still excited to see this new take on Naked Gun is one thing, and that is Liam Neeson. Some may not have seen it coming, but I absolutely did. He is great at comedy. And not a lot of people know this because most of his films have been drama or action and mostly anything but comedy. But the few things he has done in comedy are great. Namely his cameo in Seth MacFarlane's film Ted 2. In that movie, he plays the whole thing very seriously, just completely deadpan. He just acts like it's the most serious thing in the world. And he's this guy in a supermarket. He's trying to buy Trix cereal, but is nervous that the authorities will come after him because Trix are for kids, and he's like scared he's going to get beaten up by people. And he just plays that little 2-minute role, maybe even less than 2 minutes. He plays it so well that I was actually dying to see what he would do next in comedy, because that scene, which came out in 2015, mind you, has still stuck around in my head for like a decade now. So I think that just goes to show like how much of a good comedian he is. That's my favorite scene in that film. I still remember it a decade later, and this is him finally getting a lead role in a comedy. And Naked Gun is really perfect for him because this type of humor is literally just people doing wordplay and taking everything that's said totally the wrong way. things get completely ridiculous, and there's a lot of puns and stuff like that, but it's played completely seriously, which makes it even funnier. Again, a deadpan humor I mentioned, like that's this entire movie. Liam Neeson, he does so well in this movie the same way that Leslie Nielsen does in the original. And by the way, I'm not sure if it's just a rumor or this is actually the truth, but I do think it's kind of hilarious that they picked the guy who has the closest name to Leslie Nielsen, and they got Liam Neeson for this movie. Like, Liam Neeson, Leslie Nielsen. I just think it's a very weird coincidence. I don't know if it's coincidence. I have trouble imagining that the people behind this movie were like, let's just get a guy who has a name similar to the last guy we had. And it's like, I don't know how that worked, but Liam Neeson is a perfect fit for this movie, and he looks even a little like the other guy. He's supposed to be his son in this movie. It just, the pieces align so perfectly. It's just so good. On another note, I've really missed having comedies in theaters. Like, it feels like we've had less and less as the years have gone by. A lot of them go to streaming, which is very frustrating because I don't know if it's just me. I like watching a comedy in theaters because I want to laugh with people around me and get that communal experience. Like, I don't feel like a lot of genres lend to the communal experience as much as comedy, which is literally like, you just want to be in a theater with other people laughing so you can laugh too. It's like, imagine being at a comedy club and it's just you there. There's no one else there. It's more awkward that way. So, like, why would you want to watch a comedy from home? And I don't know, I've been dying to have more comedies in theaters. Friendship, earlier this year, the movie, was a nice reminder of what comedy, could be in theaters, and I thought that was a really fun experience. I laughed really hard at some parts of that film, and I'll just say it now, I think The Naked Gun is the most I've laughed in a movie theater since either Barbie or Bottoms from a few years ago. I will give Friendship that I think I laughed a bit harder in that film, but I didn't laugh nearly as consistently as The Naked Gun. If you don't remember, I gave Friendship like a B minus. I thought it was very funny at times, but it was more hit or miss than I would have liked. So there were also just sections of that movie where I was just not really laughing. The Naked Gun probably didn't laugh as hard, but I was laughing very often. I mean, this movie has jokes off the wazoo. Like, there's literally a joke every 20 to 30 seconds of some kind. Like, it's a visual joke, or it's an audible joke, like, whatever it is, there's one constantly. So if, like, one joke doesn't work for you, there's another right around the corner that might make you laugh. And I'm happy to say that I laughed at almost all the jokes. Like, a lot of them are very, very funny. Some are even hilarious, and had me laughing for so long that I probably missed a couple other jokes along the way, because it was just like, I just couldn't stop laughing. And a few big ones right off the bat that I think are really great. Not going to say the jokes, just saying like kind of hints about them are related to a snowman, a chili dog, a regular dog, an electric car, and a kid in a bank. I think all these jokes are great. There are a bunch of other jokes I loved. Can't really, I don't think I can really hint at them as vaguely. But yeah, all these jokes are so funny. I was like dying through all these. And yeah, it's great though. The movie is great. It understands everything that a comedy should be, and it does the most important thing a comedy has to do, which is make you laugh. I mean, everyone says that about comedies. They don't have to follow rules. A comedy can break every rule a movie has. As long as it makes you laugh, then it succeeded. It did its job. If it can make you laugh, then it worked. And, let's be honest, you're not coming to this movie for great character development or the cinematography or the story, and you're not really getting a lot of character development or an original story here. Surprisingly, the cinematography is actually quite good, though. Like, it's actually a very good-looking movie for a comedy. But I did notice that the main story here might actually be a complete ripoff of Kingsman, which is kind of unfortunate. I'd like to see a little more originality in this type of thing. Just a little more. I feel like you could have changed up a few details and it would have been different enough, but again, I was laughing so much that I didn't fully care. And in that sense, there's not a whole lot to talk about for this movie because so much of it relies on the jokes. Like, if the jokes work, the movie works, and the jokes do work here, so the movie works too. Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson also have very good chemistry in this film. They are both really good. And they're actually dating in real life too now, which is pretty neat. I'd also like to mention how nice it was to get a short movie again. This thing isn't even an hour and a half, so it flies by so quickly, and it doesn't waste any time with anything besides jokes. Like, even the end credits contain jokes, which I'm not going to say what they are, but if you watch the end credits and you keep like a close eye on things, you'll notice a few kind of jokes sprinkled in there. I thought that was very clever, very funny. And so, yeah, I was just really super satisfied by this movie. I wanted to laugh a lot, and laugh a lot I did. Obviously, comedy is very subjective, so maybe you'll laugh less than me, maybe you'll laugh even more. But this is just a really fun movie that feels like the first great comedy we've had in a while. I can't wait to see it again, and if you're a fan of the original Naked Gun, absolutely go out and see this. You'll have a great, great time. But yeah, I'm gonna give The Naked Gun a B plus. Don't wait for streaming on this one either. This is the kind of movie you definitely want to see with a packed audience in theaters, so you can all laugh together. It's a lot of fun. And that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd at MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve the show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.